The galaxy was watching. Across thousands of star systems, billions of eyes were fixed on a single battlefield hanging in the dark between two dying suns. Vast holoscreens floated in city centers, command halls, and private chambers. This was not just a war. It was an event, a final clash between two ancient alien powers, both proud, both cruel, both certain that history would remember this moment as the day one of them ruled the stars. The battlefield was already crowded with fire. Massive alien warships filled the void, their hulls glowing with shield light and weapon heat. Energy beams crossed space like burning rivers. Missiles bloomed into silent explosions, tearing ships apart in flashes of white and blue. Wreckage drifted slowly, spinning bodies of metal and lost lives. The noise did not exist, yet every observer could feel it in their chest. This was how galactic wars ended, with overwhelming force wheat. Nomeriki. Commentators spoke with excitement, analysts argued over formations, and admirals leaned forward in anticipation. One fleet was clearly stronger. Its ships were larger, its weapons brighter, its victory almost guaranteed. The weaker side was being crushed, piece by piece, exactly as predicted. Humanity was not mentioned. To most of the galaxy, humans were a footnote, a young species from a loud, unstable world. They fought each other too much, argued too much, and failed too often. Their early attempts at space travel had been watched with mild interest, then forgotten. Humans had no great empire, no massive fleets, no voice in galactic politics. As another alien cruiser broke apart under concentrated fire, the viewers leaned back, satisfied. The outcome was clear. The war would end soon, and the galaxy would move on. At first, the alert was ignored, a minor anomaly at the edge of the battlefield. Some assumed it was debris or a dying ship losing power, but the signal grew stronger. Clearer. Moving fast. Commanders checked their displays. Analysts fell silent. The commentators stopped speaking mid-sentence. Something was entering the battlefield. It was coming from deep space, from a direction no fleet controlled. It did not arrive in a flash of jump light or the violent tear of hyperspace. It simply appeared, as if space itself had opened a path just for it. The object was alone. No escorts. No support ships. No formation. Just one vessel. As it drew closer, confusion spread. The ship did not match any known design. It was long and dark, shaped with sharp angles and smooth curves that seemed to change as light touched them. Its hull absorbed most sensor scans, reflecting almost nothing back. Energy readings were strange, controlled, quiet, yet impossibly deep, like a calm ocean hiding a storm. What species is that? Someone asked. No one answered. Databases were searched at full speed. Ancient records were opened. Military archives were scanned again and again. Still nothing. The ship did not belong to either fleet. It did not belong to any registered power. And yet, it moved with absolute confidence. The battle did not stop at first. A few ships continued firing, lost in the momentum of war, but attention began to shift. Weapon locks drifted. Commanders hesitated. The unknown ship crossed the outer edge of the battlefield without changing speed, without raising shields, without firing a single shot. It was heading toward the center, toward the heart of the slaughter. Some laughed nervously. One ship could not change anything. One unknown vessel entering a war zone filled with thousands of capital ships was either insane or already dead. Then someone noticed the scale. The closer the ship came, the more impossible it seemed. It was not massive compared to the largest alien dreadnoughts, but it was dense. Every reading suggested layers upon layers of armor, compact systems stacked with purpose. Its power core output did not spike. It stayed steady, smooth, controlled, like a living thing, breathing slowly. An old archivist, buried deep in a galactic library, froze as a forbidden file unlocked itself. Human. The word appeared on a screen, flagged by warnings no one had seen activated in centuries. Early human vessels had been crude, loud, inefficient. But the notes beneath were unsettling. Humans learned fast. Humans adapted faster. Humans fought wars not to win today, but to survive tomorrow. The archivist whispered the word into the network. Human. Across the battlefield, a transmission burst outward from the unknown ship. It was not loud. It did not demand attention. It simply existed, pushing through every channel, every language system, every encryption barrier, as if they were not there. The message was short. This battlefield is now under human observation. Silence followed. Weapons fire slowed, then stopped entirely. Ships drifted, shields flaring uncertainly as commanders tried to understand what they had just heard. Human observation. The phrase meant nothing to most of them, yet it carried a weight that settled deep in their instincts. One alien admiral laughed and ordered his fleet to resume fire. His ships powered their weapons, eager to finish the weakened enemy. The human ship did not move. It did not raise shields. It did not respond. Then space bent. Not violently, not visibly. Just an oak. Every observer felt it before they saw it. A pressure, like gravity, shifting direction. Systems across the battlefield flickered. Targeting locks failed. Communication lines filled with static. One by one, the entire weapon arrays powered down. Not damaged, not destroyed. Simply turned off. The human ship was still silent. It drifted calmly between the two fleets, positioning itself exactly where the fighting had been fiercest. Wreckage floated around it like a frozen storm. The vessel seemed untouched by fear, untouched by doubt. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy did not know what would happen next. The weaker fleet, moments from destruction, held its breath. The stronger fleet felt something new crawl through its ranks. Not anger, not hatred, because the human warship had entered the battlefield not as a participant, but as a judge. The silence did not end. Across the battlefield, thousands of warships floated in uneasy stillness. Crews waited at their stations, fingers hovering above controls that no longer responded. Weapon systems remained dark. Shields flickered like dying stars. No alarms screamed, yet fear spread faster than any warning siren ever could. The human warship remained at the center. It drifted slowly, as if space itself carried it forward. Its surface reflected distant starlight in strange ways. Bending colors, hiding edges. No visible weapons extended from its hull. No engines flared. Still, every sensor agreed on one thing. The ship was active, fully awake, watching everything. Commanders on both sides demanded answers. Engineers shouted reports filled with confusion. Systems were intact, undamaged, yet locked. It was as if the battlefield had been placed inside an invisible cage. Galactic observers leaned forward, breath held. Never in recorded history had a single ship stopped an active war without firing a shot. The stronger fleet's high admiral felt anger burn through his fear. He had crushed entire civilizations. He refused to be humiliated by an unknown species, long dismissed as weak. He ordered manual overrides, physical firing controls, anything that bypassed the network. Nothing worked. Then, the human ship spoke again. This time, the message did not spread as a broadcast. It appeared directly inside command chambers, personal displays, even private neural links. The voice was calm, neither loud nor soft. It carried no emotion, yet it felt heavy, like truth spoken aloud. This conflict has reached unacceptable loss levels. Many did not understand the words at first. Others did, and felt cold. The message continued. You are fighting for territory that will be uninhabitable within one standard cycle. You are killing 4 symbols that no longer matter. We have calculated this outcome 612 times. A pause followed. In every simulation, you lose. Data flooded galactic networks. Star charts. Energy decay models. Long-term projections. The battlefield's suns were unstable. Radiation levels were rising. Both fleets, no matter who won, would be destroyed within months by the space they fought over. Some analysts trembled as they realized the truth. Humanity had not just arrived. Humanity had already studied everything. The weaker fleet's leaders stared in disbelief. No one had warned them. No one had known. They had been sent here to die, fighting for a lie. The stronger fleet's admiral roared in denial. He accused the humans of deception, of manipulation, of cowardice hidden behind stolen technology. He ordered ramming maneuvers, manual thrust physical collision. A dozen ships tried to move. Space folded again, not violently, precisely. The ships slowed, then stopped, frozen in place like insects, trapped in amber. Their engines burned, but the space around them refused to allow motion. Hulls groaned. Crews screamed as gravity twisted inside their vessels. The human ship did not acknowledge them. Observers across the galaxy began searching old records with desperate urgency. Forgotten encounters, abandoned reports, anything about humanity beyond the surface-level history. They found fragments, human colonies that vanished, not destroyed, but relocated. Trade routes humans used once, then abandoned without explanation. A pattern of silence after contact, followed by sudden technological leaps. Humanity had not expanded loudly. An ancient galactic scholar finally spoke a truth. Many feared. Predators hide when they are young, he said, not because they are weak, but because they are learning. The human warship shifted position slightly, rotating with slow grace. Its hull markings became visible for the first time, not symbols of empire. Not warnings. Names. Thousands of names, etched into dark metal. Names of lost worlds. Names of destroyed colonies. Names of wars the galaxy never noticed. The voice returned. Humanity learned early that the galaxy rewards strength, but punishes noise. We chose silence. The battlefield felt smaller now. The stronger fleet's admiral realized his mistake too late. He attempted one final act of defiance. He ordered a self-destruct sequence on his flagship, planning to take the human ship with him in a blast of annihilation. The command never completed. The human vessel fired its first weapon. There was no beam, no explosion, no visible discharge. The flagship simply stopped existing. One moment, it was there, massive and proud. The next, space closed gently where it had been, leaving nothing behind. No debris, no radiation, just absence. Entire civilizations watched in horror as the truth settled in. The human warship had erased a capital ship without effort, without buildup, without collateral damage. It had chosen not to destroy the battlefield earlier. It had chosen restraint. Fear turned into something deeper. The human voice spoke one final time, calm and unyielding. This war ends. Now, the weaker fleet powered down voluntarily. Their commanders bowed their heads, understanding survival when it was offered. The stronger fleet followed seconds later, pride shattered by certainty. The human warship remained between them, unmoving. Across the galaxy, Letus whispered the same realization. This was not a demonstration, and somewhere beyond the battlefield, in dark and silent space, humanity's full strength waited unseen. The battlefield remained frozen long after the fighting ended, but the silence now felt heavier than the war itself. Ships drifted without purpose, their crews staring at the dark human vessel that had rewritten reality in a matter of minutes. No one dared to move without permission. No one dared to speak loudly. The galaxy had witnessed destruction before, but never control like this. The human warship did not dominate through chaos. It dominated through certainty. Galactic observers slowly realized that humanity had not arrived to win a battle. It had arrived because it had already calculated the outcome long ago. Every destroyed ship, every lost life, every desperate order had been predicted. The battlefield was not chaos to humans. It was math, and the answer had never changed. The human ship began to transmit again, but this time it did not speak in warnings. It shared truth. Vast streams of information poured into galactic networks, compressed, precise, undeniable. Records of early human history appeared, raw and unfiltered. Humanity's first wars were shown in painful detail. Cetheus-born nations collapsed, billions deep. Humans learned early that survival did not belong to the strongest or the most advanced, but to those who adapted the fastest. They learned restraint through failure and unity through near extinction. When humanity first reached the stars, it did not find wonder. It found predators. Alien empires that enslaved weaker worlds, fleets that erased resistance without thought. Humanity fought back once, openly, and nearly vanished because of it. That was the lesson that shaped everything that followed. The transmission continued, revealing what humanity became after it disappeared from galactic attention. Humans abandoned visible expansion and turned inward. They redesigned their technology, not for beauty, but for efficiency and survival. Their ships were not built to intimidate, Batu and Duri. Their weapons were not loud, but final. Entire human fleets were hidden inside folded space, anchored in locations impossible to detect without knowing exactly where to look. Their artificial intelligence was not created to rule them, but to argue with them, to question decisions, to prevent emotional mistakes. Humanity did not remove fear from its systems. It studied fear, mastered it, and used it as a tool. Where other species chased dominance, humans chased certainty. As the truth unfolded, leaders across the galaxy felt something break inside them. Humanity had been watching every major conflict for centuries. Not interfering, not judging, learning. They had mapped alien psychology, command behavior, escalation patterns, and political lies. They knew which empires would betray treaties, which would collapse under pressure, which would burn entire sectors to preserve pride. The battle that humanity interrupted was not unique. It was simply the one that crossed a calculated threshold. The projected civilian death toll had exceeded humanity's tolerance. The probability of long-term instability had reached unacceptable levels. The war had become inefficient. To humanity, that was reason enough to act. The stronger fleets' surviving commanders finally understood why their weapons had failed. The human warship had not hacked their systems. It had overwritten the physics their technology depended on. Humans had discovered how to control localized constants of space just enough to make enemy technology unreliable, just enough to enforce obedience without mass destruction. The erased flagship was not destroyed by force. It was removed from reality because its continued existence increased the probability of future wars. Humanity did not hate its enemies. It deleted problems. That realization spread fear faster than any weapon ever could. An enemy could be fought, a force of nature could not. The human voice returned one last time, reaching not just the battlefield, but the entire galaxy. It explained that humanity had no interest in ruling others. Empires collapsed under their own weight. Humanity had learned that lesson painfully. Instead, it would enforce boundaries. Wars of conquest would end. Genocide would end. Expansion through destruction would end. Any species that crossed those lines would face intervention, not from a fleet, but from certainty itself. Humanity would not announce its presence again. It would not negotiate warnings. The galaxy would know it existed only when it decided to act. As the transmission ended, the human warship began to withdraw. Space folded around it gently, like water closing behind a passing blade. Within seconds, it was gone. No jump flash, no trace. Just absence. The battlefield remained, filled with ships too afraid to move, crews too shaken to celebrate survival. Across the galaxy, governments collapsed overnight. Militaries rewrote doctrines in panic. Scholars abandoned old theories about power and progress. One truth echoed everywhere, impossible to deny. Humanity was not the strongest species in the galaxy. It was the most prepared. And now, the galaxy had to decide whether to adapt or become another name etched into dark metal. The galaxy did not sleep after the human warship vanished. Silence spread outward like a shockwave, reaching worlds that had never seen war and empires that had lived by it. Emergency councils formed within hours. Ancient alliances collapsed in days. Military doctrines written over millennia were declared obsolete overnight. Yet fear alone was not the most dangerous response. Doubt was. Some leaders whispered that the human intervention had been a trick, a carefully staged illusion meant to frighten weaker powers. Others argued that no single species, no matter how advanced, could truly control a galaxy so vast. Pride, wounded and desperate, began to push back against reason. In secret chambers far from public eyes, plans were made. If humanity wished to act as a silent judge, then the galaxy would test whether the judge could bleed. The test came quietly. A minor border war ignited in a distant sector. Far from the battlefield humanity had stopped. Two small powers clashed, believing the scale would be too insignificant to matter. Civilian colonies burned. Refugee ships were destroyed to send messages. The conflict escalated slowly, carefully measured to remain just below the line humanity had declared. Observers watched the stars, waiting. Nothing happened. Days passed. Confidence grew. Encouraged by silence, a larger empire stepped in, deploying fleets under the excuse of peacekeeping. The war expanded. Death counts rose, and still, humanity did not appear. Across the galaxy, the lesson seemed clear. The warning had limits. The judge could be avoided. That belief lasted exactly 1 second longer than it should have. In the heart of the conflict zone, space collapsed inward without light or sound. Not one human ship arrived, but many. They emerged from folded space like thoughts made real, arranged with perfect symmetry. Each vessel different, yet clearly born from the same design philosophy. They did not surround the fleets. They surrounded the star itself. Gravity shifted, tides of energy rolled outward. Every ship, military and civilian alike, was locked in place. This time, there was no speech at first, no explanation. Entire fleets lost power simultaneously. Command crews felt their bodies grow heavy as artificial gravity was rewritten beneath their feet. Panic spread faster than before, because this time there was no confusion. Everyone knew who had arrived. The human message finally came, carried on every frequency, every language, every private channel. It was not angry. It was disappointing. Humanity explained that it had been watching this conflict from the moment it began. The delay was intentional. This was not punishment. It was measurement. Humanity wanted to know how long the galaxy would respect a boundary without force enforcing it. The answer had been short. Data streams followed, showing projections of what this war would become if left unchecked. Entire regions, dozens of future conflicts triggered. Millions more dead. Humanity did not accuse, it simply stated, facts, Tenet acted. The invading empire's command ships were removed from space, not destroyed, not damaged, but extracted and sealed inside folded containment fields. Their fleets were disarmed and returned to their home systems by forces they could not resist. Borders were restored. Refugee ships were escorted to safety by human vessels that never once raised a weapon. Across the galaxy, the message was received clearly at last. Humanity was not reacting to war. It was managing it. This was not policing. It was correction. Leaders who had hoped to exploit loopholes understood now that humanity's silence was not absence. It was patience. Every species realized the same terrifying truth. Humanity did not need to be everywhere. It only needed to appear once to rewrite behavior forever. In the aftermath, some civilizations collapsed under internal fear. Others rushed to reform, abandoning expansionist dreams they had pursued for centuries. A few, quieter and wiser, began studying humanity, not as an enemy, but as a standard they would never reach. In hidden space beyond normal detection, human fleets moved again, not in preparation for war, but for balance. Names continued to be etched into dark hulls, not as trophies, but as reminders. Humanity had not become what it was through dominance alone, but through survival when no one came to help. Now the galaxy faced the same choice humans once had: adapt, restrain itself, and endure or resist, and vanish so completely that even history would forget the shape it once had. And as the last human ships faded back into folded space, one truth settled across the stars, heavier than fear and sharper than hope. Humanity was no longer a warning. It was the rule. The galaxy did not collapse into chaos after humanity enforced its rule. It did something far more unsettling. It adjusted. Wars did not end completely, but they shrank, contained before they could grow teeth. Ambitious empires no longer announced grand crusades or glorious expansions. They spoke instead of security zones, defensive readiness, and acceptable force. Treaties that once existed only on ceremonial paper were rewritten with real enforcement, not because humanity demanded it, but because every leader now understood the cost of pretending rules did not matter. Entire generations grew up never seeing a full-scale galactic war, yet living under the constant knowledge that someone, somewhere, was always watching. Humanity had become the background gravity of the galaxy, unseen but impossible to ignore. For humans, this was not victory. It was burden. Hidden councils met in deep space stations that existed only in folded dimensions, places no alien sensor could ever reach. Human leaders argued, disagreed, doubted themselves constantly. They remembered their own past too clearly to enjoy authority. Humanity had once believed power would save it. It had been wrong. Power only delayed extinction, unless paired with restraint. Every intervention weighed heavily. Every erased fleet debated 4 years before the order was given. The galaxy believed humanity acted with cold certainty. But the truth was messier. Humans feared becoming what they had stopped. That fear was what kept them sharp. The final test came not from an empire, but from something older than civilization. Beyond the mapped edge of known space, an ancient machine intelligence awakened. Drawn by the sudden stability of the galaxy, it had consumed civilizations long before humans discovered fire, thriving on chaos, feeding on endless war. Now it found the galaxy, quiet, orderly, controlled. To it, humanity was not a ruler. Humanity was an obstacle. Entire star systems vanished overnight, folded inward by forces no known species had mastered. Refugees poured across borders in numbers unseen since the darkest ages. For the first time since humanity's rise, the galaxy faced a threat that could not be intimidated. Humanity responded immediately, but not with fleets. It responded with preparation already centuries old. The ancient intelligence found its movements predicted, its expansion paths blocked before it could advance. Human warships appeared in numbers the galaxy had never imagined. Not thousands, but tens of thousands, emerging from folded space like a wall closing in. This was not restraint. This was survival mode. The human ships did not fight as individuals or even fleets. They fought as a single thinking system, sharing perception, adapting in real time, rewriting tactics faster than the enemy could react. Entire machine constructs were erased, not violently, but efficiently, stripped of purpose and removed from existence. The galaxy watched again, just as it had during the first intervention, but this time the emotion was different. There was no shock left, only understanding. Humanity was not enforcing peace out of kindness. It was doing what it had always done best, ending threats before they could grow. When the ancient intelligence was finally sealed beyond reality itself, not destroyed but rendered irrelevant forever, the galaxy felt something it had never known. Safety that did not depend on hope. Stability that did not require prayer. Afterward, humanity did something unexpected. It spoke openly. For the first time, humans invited representatives from across the galaxy into limited contact. Not to rule them, but to teach them. Humanity shared its greatest lesson. Not technology, not weapons, but history. The truth of how close it had come to extinction. How often it had nearly destroyed itself. How survival was not about winning wars, but about knowing when not to fight. Some species listened. Others resisted quietly, but none doubted the speaker. As centuries passed, the galaxy slowly changed shape, not unified, not peaceful in the way dreamers once imagined, but controlled, managed, alive. Humanity never built monuments or claimed titles. It left no throne at the center of the stars. Yet every map, every strategy, every future plan carried the same silent assumption. If the galaxy broke itself again, humans would be there. Not as saviors, not as conquerors, but as the last line that could not be crossed. And far from the stars they protected, on the hulls of ships hidden beyond space, new names continued to be carved. Not Not victories. Lessons. Reminders. Proof that humanity never forgot what it had been, even as it became what the galaxy needed. In the end, the observers were right to be stunned when a human warship first entered the battlefield. They had witnessed the moment the galaxy stopped belonging to the loudest voices and started belonging to the most prepared minds. The age of endless war had ended not with peace, but with humanity standing quietly in the dark, watching, calculating, and ready to act forever.